back to Big Riff Energy. It's Tuesday, August 5th, and I am a new man. I am here to tell you the undercut is the superior Big Riff hairstyle. It's the definition of having your cake and eating it too. I don't know why I didn't do it sooner. I've been thinking about doing it forever. So shout out to 1988 Jason Newsted and 1990 Phil Anselmo, you guys, and I think Mike Patton too. Hank 3, shout out to 2006 and 7 era Hank Williams III. You guys were all on to something. And I guess variety of Native American warriors before that. But yeah, man, makes me more aerodynamic when I fight, and I still get to have long hair too somehow. Anyway, today I'm going over my top 5 solo Ozzy Osbourne albums. You'll see that there's only 4 here, so there's going to be a surprise X Factor number 5 or number 3 or number 1. I'm also going to talk about a Ozzy era Black Sabbath album that is like really overlooked, that one of you wrote in about a little while ago, and I revisited that, and it's even better than I remember. Got a bunch of emails. We'll talk about the best riff of 1983, which is a big year for metal, obviously. This best riff of the year thing is going to get harder and harder with each passing year of the 80s. Clearly, the 80s are the decade of the big riff, but there's going to be like a couple of old schoolers, and then obviously there were a couple monumental events that happened in 83, debut albums and stuff like that. Got some emails from you guys about all kinds of shit. Kiss, Ritchie Blackmore, best metal lyricists. I got a request to review or critique one of your guys' albums, which I'll be doing. Before we get cracking on the Ozzy stuff, this riff for hire stuff has been a lot of fun. I'm going to show y'all another one. This was commissioned by my friends at Bangers and Mosh podcast. It's the best metal podcast in the UK, perhaps the entire European continent. And also shout out to Jimmy D, man, from Bangers and Mosh. I put a request out there for a bolt thrower shirt that has the stained glass cross on it. That's all I wanted. It could have literally just been the logo. Jimmy D, bro, you sent me this all the way from the UK. I love it, man. Thank you so much. It's my war attire, you know. So I was contacted by these guys to do basic old school death metal. You know, I think they mentioned Deicide and Cannibal Corpse and Morbid Angel and some other stuff. But I'm going to talk over this just so nobody jacks it. You know what I mean? But here we go. Here's the Bangers and Mosh Big Riff Energy riff request. Intro for sure. Yeah, Morbid Angel vibes, but definite Cryptopsy vibes. Here we go. Bomb snare into like a Malevolent Creation kind of deal. Morbid Angel, Malevolent Creation. Stabs into kind of a cannibal-ish death kind of thing. Gotta do the groove part, you know? Yeah, and I thought it was kind of clever to just extend those descending, borderline, atonal, dissonant harmony parts to the end. This has been a very fun exercise. A few of these I'm trying to like pack a whole song into 30 seconds or so. I had a wild request to try to combine Tomb of the Mutilated era, Cannibal Corpse, Slaughter of the Soul era, At the Gates, and Dimebag Darrell. I was like, what? But I think I pulled it off, you know? So yeah, if you are waiting on your custom riff salad from me, be patient. I'm working on them. I guess some of you guys have been having issues with the PayPal messages or whatever. So to get a custom riff from me or series of riffs, there's a link in the description to send me the PayPal, but write me also at bigriffenergy@gmail.com and tell me what you're looking for, or you can just tell me to do my own thing, whatever. But please email me separately, because I think a few of you are attempting to contact me via like the PayPal messaging and it's not going through. Uh, so I would have probably already had your guys' stuff done like last week. But no thanks to PayPal for anything. Remember when they froze my account because I joked about, I don't know if I mentioned this on here, but I joked about enriched uranium for Iran or something in a PayPal note, and they froze my shit. So maybe that's why I'm not getting your messages. But yeah, if you want a riff like that or a little mini song or whatever, write me at bigriffenergy@gmail.com. Tell me what you're looking for. Any style, I should be able to pull it off. And then there's a link, like I said in the description, to send me the dough, you know? Give me some money. We'll get to the best riff or riffs of 83, but let's talk about Ozzy, man. I didn't want to talk about it last week. It's a huge bummer, but at the same time, he probably had the coolest life anybody ever had. He had like a Forrest Gump ass kind of life. Like, you just can't believe that one dude got to experience all that, considering where he came from, everything he went through, everything he survived. And then going out the way that he did, I mean, we all got to go somehow. And that seems to be like the coolest way anybody ever went out. And, I did an episode sort of half making fun of that back to the beginning thing before it happened. And I was kind of cynical about it because they let it sell out. And then they were like, oh, he's only going to do 3 songs, 4 songs, only 4 songs with Sabbath, whatever. And I was kind of like, man, I'll be the first to admit when I'm wrong, because that was the coolest thing ever. That was like one of my favorite days ever. I'm so glad I was getting annoyed and pestered and blown up by so many people to watch it. Nicole and I spent the whole day just having fun, feeling like we were there, But these guys, they raised $190 million for charity. He got to do one last show, connect with his fans in his hometown at like the coolest possible venue that you could do it. And it was just a celebration of maybe the coolest guy that ever lived. He's in the running. I mean, I can't think of anybody that's cooler or more badass than him. So we're going to talk about my 5 favorite Ozzy albums. I'm going to try to not get too like sentimental about this shit. I know how all y'all are feeling, and you know how I'm feeling. We lost our fucking Santa Claus, basically. First album, Blizzard of Oz, obvious masterpiece. Pulled him out of a downward spiral trajectory of substance abuse and self-loathing that would have certainly destroyed him if it weren't for Sharon and this band and these songs, and Bob Daisley for really contributing to the writing of these songs. I'm gonna put this at number 2. This is my second favorite solo Ozzy album. I think my favorite songs on here are Suicide Solution, Mr. Crowley, and it should be Mr. Crowley. Doesn't sound as good. Revelation, Mother Earth. Those are the bangers on here for me. So that's number 2, man. The debut Ozzy Osbourne album, Blizzard of Oz. Dude, speaking of Sharon pulling him out of that hotel room, the biggest plot twist of this whole thing for me is that in the past few years, I have become a major, major fan and admirer of Sharon Osbourne, who was the fucking boogeyman of the story and the arch villain of the story for all these years, depending on whose perspective you're looking at it from. But the past few years, the interview I started to do with Billy Corgan, her putting together that back to the beginning thing and proving a cynic like myself completely wrong on something like that and raising all that money for charity. I have become a fan of Sharon Osbourne. It's the biggest fucking plot twist of the whole Ozzy and Black Sabbath story. I just thought I'd throw that out there. Second solo Ozzy album. Boy's looking pretty wild on the front, but look how unhinged he is on the back. It's somehow even more like he's not even really in costume, but he looks somehow more diabolical and menacing. Diary of a Madman. The band feels weird about it, like they didn't have enough time to work on it compared to the first one. But this is my favorite. This is number one, man. Every single song is fucking amazing. Every song. I can't pick a favorite song. I love Tonight. I love Tonight. The Little Dolls drum intro. Dez from High on Fire straight up took that. I forget what High on Fire song it is. It might be on like Luminiferous or something like that. Shows you how influential this is, even decades later. Diary of a Madman is probably my favorite solo Ozzy song, but like I love every single song on here. Okay, number one, Diary of a Madman. Bark at the Moon. This is gonna get a little controversial, perhaps. We've been doing these Houston trips, and so we've been listening to all the solo Ozzy stuff and revisited 13, the Black Sabbath album, which I'll talk about a little bit here in a second. Something I realized about Bark at the Moon, this is, I'm almost going to say it's not a metal album. It's not a metal album. And hear me out, okay? Look at the track listing, really think about it. First of all, a favorite song on here is Center of Eternity, for sure. A sort of nicked part of that riff for a Spirit Adrift song. Bonus points if anybody can figure out which one. But so you got Bark at the Moon, definite metal song. Center of Eternity, definite metal song. Rock and Roll Rebel for sure, but like You're No Different, amazing song, not metal. Now You See It, Now You Don't, kind of metalish if you're considering like Def Leppard or something like that. So Tired, definitely not metal. Slow Down, definitely. You see what I'm saying? It's only like a third of, it's like 33% metal. Great album, great songs. Got the new lineup cracking on here. Tommy Aldridge and Jakey Lee. Tommy Aldridge being one of my favorite drummers of all time. But I'm going to put this at number 4. Number 4. Yeah. Bark at the Moon. Love Jakey's guitar work. He does all kinds of cool stuff all over the place. The riffs and the solos are cool, but he does all kinds of in-between little leads. There's just that thing we talk about, jumping back and forth between rhythm and lead guitar subtly. Ultimate Sin. I know this is kind of like a fan favorite these days. Ozzy didn't like it. He called it the ultimate din, which is kind of like a word for just loud noise that's annoying, Yeah, the production is a little weird. The songwriting seems to slip a little bit on this, although I do know that Bob Daisley allegedly was still involved in the writing. Let's talk about the album cover, Boris Vallejo. When I was a kid, I think it was 94, 95, 96, somewhere around there, I was really into X-Men trading cards, and it was Boris Vallejo and I believe his wife, Julie Bell, were doing all the Marvel, the Fleer X-Men trading cards, and they fucking rule. And so seeing like this album cover, I recognize that art. Love it. Ultimate Sin's a great song. Secret Loser is one of my favorite Ozzy songs. Shot in the Dark is great. The rest of the album sort of, Killer of Giants stands out, but a lot of the rest of it, it's kind of, I mean, shit, there's a song called Never Know Why, and there's a song called Never. What are we kind of running out of ideas, Bobby? I'll put this tied for number 5 with, oh, for fuck's sake, No Rest for the Wicked. Number 5. People are going to be mad I was banging this against my head. The Ultimate Sin. Yeah, tied with No Rest for the Wicked, number 5. So I'll just go to my number 3, which I do not own on vinyl. I almost bought it. Wherever I was, where was I? Waterloo. I saw it. They had a copy. It was before I found out that Ozzy had passed away, but I think it was maybe the same fucking day. And I almost bought it and I didn't. bought that Witch Hazel album instead. Which, side note, I felt like I was in the 70s when I saw that Witch Hazel album because I'm an active fan of that band. And I had no idea they had a new album out until I walked into a record store and saw it sitting there. And I bought it, you know, sight unseen, like having heard none of it. So if it was kind of a cool experience, like, oh, that's how most people found out their favorite bands had a new record is you go to the record store and you see the record sitting there and you're like, oh, this is new. Um, but yeah, man, No More Tears, number 3 for me. That might shock some people. Um, you had a crazy songwriting team there. You had Ozzy, obviously Zach, Lemmy from Motorhead, and Bob Daisley claims that he was still heavily involved in it, although he didn't really get credited, I don't think. A lot of Ozzy's best songs, you know, just from a songwriting standpoint, a lot of really cool riffs, a lot of heavy stuff, a lot of soul crushing, touching, you know, Mama, I'm Coming Home and Road to Nowhere and stuff like that. But then a lot of really fun stuff. Hellraiser, one of his best songs. I Don't Want to Change the World. It's a fucking classic. The title track is a classic. Easily Zakk Wylde's best lead guitar work of his entire career, in my book. It's so tasteful. He's not really a guy that focuses on serving the song over blowing your fucking face off, you know? He can do both. But for some reason on that album, No More Tears, Zakk was really seemed to be focused on serving the song and subtlety and feeling. And he blows your head off every once in a while. But yeah, so what was it? Diary, number 1. Blizzard of Oz, number 2. No More Tears, number 3. I might have to go back to Waterloo and grab that. Bark at the Moon, not a metal album, but great. Number 4. And tied for 5, Ultimate Sin, No Rest for the Wicked. And then the rest of the Ozzy albums are fine. I just put those will all be number 6 and 7, kind of tied somewhere in there. One of y'all wrote in about Black Sabbath 13. And we listened to that on one of the Houston trips. And I remember when it came out, I was pretty burnt out. It's like 2012 or something. I was burned out. Music wasn't doing a whole lot for me at that time. And despite being in that condition, I remember really being kind of impressed by that album. And we just re-listened to it. And I was even more impressed. That's a great album. Great album. I wish that Bill could have been on it and that his chops were there to be on it. Although I think Bill could have actually handled the drumming on that album. Who was on there? Brad Wilk, Rage Against the Machine. Was pretty sure Bill could like pull all that stuff off. And there's one song on there that the groove, the swing, it's kind of the real 60s, like jammy kind of sounding song. The swing just is not right because it's not Bill. And if it was Bill, it probably would have been right. They're just not quite. And Brad is a pocket drummer, really like solid behind the beat, Bonham school, like pocket drummer. But for some reason, not having Bill on that one song, the groove never locks. The timing is never quite apparent, you know. But other than that, great album. What really stood out to me, as always, Ozzy's ability to conjure these timeless A+ vocal melodies. You know, a song like Loner, the pre-chorus and the chorus, like when the ascending vocal things and the little variations he does on the melodies. I mean, he was born with a gift. He was born with many gifts, I think. He was born with like the gift of just an explosively like welcoming soul or something, you know. I would say positivity, but that's kind of painting with a broad brush. But I think he was born with something special in him. And one of the ways it manifested itself was these just perfect, beautiful, genius, but simple vocal melodies. And they're all over 13. They're all over all these albums, obviously. So That's all I want to say about it. Rest in peace to Ozzy. We all love you. A man with no haters. And if you're an Ozzy hater, there's something fucking wrong with you. By no means was the man a saint or was he perfect, but one of the coolest, most inspiring, most genuine, badass singers ever, for sure. So, damn it. Best riffs of 1983 time. So, you know, you have like ultra super duper classic shit coming out kind of from the old school a little bit. Make sure this son of a bitch is working. Okay, so obviously Dio Holy Diver is kind of a big deal, right? But kind of nothing new. Dio Holy Diver is a perfect album. It's one of the best metal records ever made, but it's not really anything like revolutionary. It's just super duper duper solid. I'm going to say the same thing about Mercyful Fate. Don't kill me. But guitar wise, you know, obviously they're doing stuff with the aesthetics and the theatrics and the lyrics and the whole vibe of that that's kind of pushing the limits of like evil and shit. But as far as the guitar stuff, like there's killer riffs on that first album. Into the Coven being a personal favorite. When we toured with Sanhedrin in Europe, Jeremy, shout out to Jeremy, fucking great guitar player, great dude. Jeremy from Sanhedrin was sound checking with that every night. Fucking loved hearing it. Such a great riff. Right? Great stuff, but still kind of like we've heard all this before. Two things happened in 83 that I think were the two most important things for metal since Sabbath or maybe Priest. You know, first Slayer album, first Metallica album. And I love the first Slayer album, but if we're going like riff for riff, I'm going to lean towards Kill 'Em All. And here we go again with the record where you can pretty much pick any riff and it could be a contender for best riff of 1983. One that pops into mind is right? Mustaine all day, jump in the fire. There was a point, man, when I knew every single riff from Kill 'Em All by heart. One, when I was thinking 83 and I saw Kill 'Em All, I will say the first one that came to mind is one that doesn't get talked about a lot, but heavy enough for Cannibal Corpse to cover. And I love it so much. I've borrowed from it a lot. They kind of borrowed from the whole like idea of Hole in the Sky, I think. I love doing like the octave, but the, you know, I'm broken. Yeah, that's it. So I got it mixed up with a new Spirit Adrift riff. Little teaser. But yeah, No Remorse, man. That one. And then it's even got the... How's that go? Great shit. Down pick. Yep. I believe that's a Hetfield riff. So I'm going to pick that. No Remorse. 1983. Best riff of the year. That main riff. Okay. Eli the Paidski. Thank you, brother. I loved hearing you talk about EVH and Van Halen. I agree with you that Fair Warning is the best Van Halen album for sure. Ain't Talking About Love has some of those riffs that make me feel like I'm levitating. To go with the theme of how is that the first time you've talked about Van Halen in depth on the podcast? My big question is, how have you not talked about Kiss? The very first conversation we ever had was about Kiss and Ace Frehley. I won't say they're the biggest riffers of all time, nor would I call them metal, but I'll defend all day that they had several big riffs. I think people let the hate for the gimmick blind them. Black Diamond on Alive is massive. I Stole Your Love, Deuce, and so on. What Kiss songs have some big riffs in your opinion? A lot of them. I like a lot of Kiss stuff. I think if you're a certain age, like everybody I know that's into metal, that's in bands and shit, at a certain age, Kiss was their gateway because they're seeing them dudes. I mean, they were everywhere, but they're seeing these scary ass looking dudes. And yeah, that's the gateway. I like a lot of it. I don't like a lot of it. I'm not like a total fanatic, but all the songs you mentioned, I remember seeing Melvins open for Napalm Death in Phoenix, and the Melvins opened their set with Deuce by Kiss and fucking blew the building up. Dude, it was one of the sickest things I've ever seen. And I love Napalm Death, but when they went on, I was like, I just left. Hard to follow the Melvins. I've never seen anybody successfully follow the Melvins. But yeah, Deuce is cool. I like Detroit Rock City, God of Thunder. But my favorite, and I learned this one all fucking wrong, so bear with me. My favorite Kiss song as far as like big ass riffs is She. Because then they have this other riff. Yeah. What is it? What the fuck is it? That's bad, man. Can't remember if it's Don Kirshner's rock concert or some shit, like some TV show from the 70s. But try to find footage of Kiss playing that song She on some like 70s show, and it's badass. It's super heavy. Ace is just like throwing in little, galeeds and weedaleeds all over the place. So yeah, I like Kiss, but number one Kiss song to me is She. I love those riffs. David from Texas. First of all, I just wanted to mention how much your music resonates with me. I discovered Spirit Adrift earlier this year while looking for more doom metal bands and discovered Curse of Conception. Since then, I've listened to every album in the discography and love each and every one of them, no matter if it's the early doom material or the newer traditional heavy metal material. Currently own Curse of Conception, Enlightened, and Ghost on CD. Yeah, and recently purchased 20 Centuries Gone. Thank you. All that's left is Chained to Oblivion, Divided by Darkness. So if there's a way that I can directly buy those CDs from you, as well as a Neon Nightmare album, please do let me know, as I'd like to directly support you. Thank you, man. You can buy whatever $20 Spin has. And I know he's working on getting the licenses back from Century Media on a lot of that stuff. Chained to Oblivion, good luck with that. Prosthetic Records isn't even a label anymore. I don't even think I have that on CD. And like the first EP, I don't have any of that stuff. I got one of each of those on vinyl, I think. But yeah, you can get the Neon Nightmare record from $20 Spin, and I get way more money from him than I do from streaming or anything else. So yeah. Thanks, man. Anyways, as for my question for the podcast, I wanted to ask you what your opinions are on worship bands whose style is directly influenced by a specific existing band. Bands such as Gruesome, which is death worship, obviously, Thulkandra, dissection worship, Pia Mater, Opeth worship, and Mortal Vision, Sepultura worship. I know that many are of the opinion that these bands are derivative and lack originality. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole fucking point. And while they're not wrong, I strongly enjoy and appreciate these types of bands. I think that as long as the style is done right and that they're transparent about their influence, then there's no harm in them. I also really appreciate that these bands are continuing to play styles from bands that no longer exist or bands who completely changed their sound. It gives us more of what we like from these bands, and it feels like new music, but played from a different perspective. I especially wanted to ask your opinion on this since you yourself have Neon Nightmare and are very transparent about it being a tribute of sorts to Typo Negative. Yeah, I like a lot of them. I mean, Chuck from Death is gone. There's no more Death. The next best thing we could get is Gruesome. Matt Harvey is a fucking legitimate genius. He's one of the most like obsessively detailed, just gifted guys I've ever encountered in my life. And I talked about the Gruesome record that came out this year. That's like They're Human or whatever, and it's one of my favorite records of the year for sure. If that was a Death record, it would maybe be like number 3 for me, like top 3. It's fucking amazing. I hadn't heard those other bands, but something I noticed, you know, if there's a Dissection worship band, John is gone, no more Dissection, so I'm cool with that. Um, yeah, I think it's cool. Obviously, I like it. My whole thing with Neon Nightmare was like, dude, I have worn these Typo Negative records out. I've listened to every single one of them so many times. Like, I just wish to God that there was more Typo Negative music for me to listen to, you know? And that was the whole impetus of the whole thing. Is I just, as a fan, wanted more of that music. And I thought, well, if I want more of it that bad, there's got to be other people that do, you know? So it seems weird to me that like, yeah, it'd be weird to completely rip off a band that's like still active and stuff. But it's almost kind of like these bootleg T-shirts. Like if you're bootlegging stuff that the people are actively trying to sell, and you're basically like stealing money from them. But if you're bootlegging stuff that the band like hasn't existed in forever, that product is not available to people who want it, then there's an opportunity there to give people what they want that they're not getting from anywhere else, you know? So that's it. I like it. I think Gruesome fucking rules. What's it like? Okay, Chuck's dead, so no more Death, and no band can ever sound like Death again. It's against the rule. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. I think Chuck would think it was cool that Matt Harvey and all them were doing that. I think he would be flattered. Who knows? He might fucking hate it, but I kind of doubt it. Kind of doubt it. Who knows? Peter Steele might fucking kick my ass for what I'm doing, but I kind of don't think so. I kind of don't think so. His sisters are cool with it, so fuck all the rest of y'all. Just kidding, bro. Thank you. Mark. Okay, Mark wanted me to talk about his record that he made. It's called Bastards of God's Grace. Mark, I got into Spirit Adrift a few years ago. Love your band. Big fan of melodic metal. Thanks, man. Back in 2021, myself and a buddy did an album. We live in a small town of 2,000 people in British Columbia, Canada. Neither of us are young, over 40. We both have jobs and families and all the other commitments that are a part of the whole deal. Main influences are Alice in Chains, COC, Down, Metallica, etc. The songs we wrote are pretty wide-ranging, show a variety of influences. We paid a damn good drummer, yeah, he's good, to lay down the drum tracks. He's the only guy that made any money on the album, but that's okay. Dude, that's how it fucking works. The guys that are like doing it are the last fucking people to get paid. It doesn't matter if it's making a record, going on tour, whatever. Everybody else gets paid before the people that made the fucking music. Okay, we're very proud of what we did. We even cracked the top 100 Apple streaming chart or something for a day in Canada. Or something, yeah, question mark. Seeing our name beside Eminem was pretty surreal, and the screenshot will be something I hold on to forever. I love those little kind of moments, man. I wanted to ask you to listen to it and critique it. What's good and what's bad? What could we do different going forward? Just want an honest opinion from a real working metal musician. We're making plans to write a second record, and the advice would come in handy. We're definitely not as metal as many other bands out there. We're just focused on our strengths. Good vocals and harmonies and well-structured songs. The album clocks in at just under 40 minutes. A little background. There's only 2 of us. Casey and I both play guitars and sing, much like Alice in Chains. My daughter did the ethereal vocals on Autumn and fucking nailed it. My personal fave part of the album is the last couple minutes of Spider Bite. And yes, we actually do live in a desert, the only one in Canada complete with prickly pear cactus, rattlesnakes, and black widows. Yeah, Mark, it's good. It honestly is good. The influences you mentioned, I think, are accurate. Alice in Chains came to mind. I did hear COC. The first stuff that came to my mind was like Queens of the Stone Age and Caius, maybe a little bit of Clutch. There's some pretty obvious like Black Sabbath parts, almost like nods to Black Sabbath. It's hard not to do the Children of the Grave, like being in the kind of band you guys are. It's almost impossible not to do that. I've done it. A lot of my favorite bands have done it. Deadbird has done it. Yeah. So I heard a lot of Black Sabbath nods. The guitar work is really good. The bass stuff is really good. I did like the ethereal like little interlude track that your daughter was on. That was cool. I think vocally your guys' strengths are when you're doing like Alice in Chains harmonies and not so much doing like a one lead singer kind of thing. I've found in the studio that it's way easier for me to track a vocal if I have something there to track to. So we do a lot of scratch shit where I'll get it close, but then I have a version of myself to sing along to. So it kind of allows me to go for it a little more and not be so hesitant when I'm so like I double all my vocals, but even if I'm like doing good takes, we're gonna end up doing like 8, 10 takes so that I like the first take is not that good. And then I'm doubling that and it's a little better. Then we delete the first take. Then I'm doubling the second take and it gets a little bit better. And we do that like 8, 10 times. And then bam, you have two really good vocal tracks. So it sounds like for y'all, it's the same kind of thing where it's easier for you guys to give a good performance if there's another vocal already there. You want me to be super honest, so I will. Yeah, the guitar stuff is rad. The drummer's really fucking good. The vocals are good. They're like really good here and there. They're okay for the most part. And one thing I was kind of picking up on is being super attached to a lyric that might not like what you're saying is really cool and profound, but the way that it sounds might not be like it might be a little bit busy syllabically, like too many syllables, and you really are like invested in this idea that you're trying to get across, but it doesn't necessarily make for the best lyric, right? Like it's a great idea, but you want a lyric to be able to roll out like smoothly. I don't know if smoothly is the right, like naturally without a lot of like struggling to fit all of the words and shit into the amount of time that you have rhythmically. So, I mean, this is all stuff like you guys have listened to me learn on the job how to become a legitimate like rock singer, I think. Like I even listened to the early Spirit of Drift stuff. I'm like, those vocals are not great. It's what I was able to do at the time. But not only can you learn through experience to be like a better singer, which is I think the most difficult thing by far about being in a rock band is figuring out how to be a great singer, not just like an acceptable, passable singer, because your instrument isn't internal and it's much more like of an esoteric kind of process. Uh, you can learn to get better at that, but you can also learn to get better at taking this idea that you want to say and whittling the words down to where the idea is still there, but it's going to sound cooler and more. Uh, yeah, you just want the words to sound badass. And dude, it's taken me 5, 6 albums, even just with Spirit Adrift, not to mention all the other bands I was in since I was like 13 singing before Spirit Adrift. But it's taken me this long to figure out like, okay, well, I know what I'm trying to say. I have a million fucking words here and I have a vocal melody in my mind. And it's like the words are not really. So just start cutting stuff. And you might have to, you guys rhyme. I rhyme, Ozzy, Geezer Butler, Bob Dylan, all those guys write. Pink Floyd, all my favorite lyricists, Dax Riggs, they rhyme. I think that's important. So you might have to like change word, and you end up changing so many words that you barely recognize your idea, but it's still there and you know what it is. But now it's kind of a win-win because now it's even a little more esoteric. So your listener is wondering, like, what does that mean exactly? You know? So that would be my main critique is the vocals. Um, yeah, if you guys are doing another album, do more takes. Do more fucking takes. Do like get a take that's good and then double that and then just keep doubling it until you have one that's really good and then get rid of every take you've done and just keep, you know what I mean? And it's going to bring out a confidence that I feel is a little bit lacking on a lot of the vocals on the album. But yeah, I really, really like moments of this. Bastards of God's Grace, right? Look it up, guys. It's on YouTube. The third track, especially the first half, super badass. There's a song on here too that's kind of more just like there's just bass and kind of like synthesizer and creepy vocals. Almost reminds me of just not musically, but more conceptually of Who Are You on Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. You know, you have this rockin' ass album, bam, right in the middle of it, there's this weird, like creepy, psychedelic, fucked up, mentally ill, like synthesizer journey, you know? So I like that song a lot. Yeah, it's good, man. I think it would appeal to anybody listening who likes any of that desert rock stuff, Caius, Queens of the Stone Age, Fu Manchu, all that shit, COC, Sabbath, Alice in Chains for sure. So thanks for writing in, Mark. I enjoyed it. Adrian, you cited the top 4 metal. Okay, Adrian sent me a gazillion ideas. I picked one. You cited the top 4 metal vocalists to be Anselmo, Dickinson, Dio, and Halford in one of your earliest episodes. Dude, and I think, honestly, I would change that to Anselmo, Ozzy, Dio, and Halford. Not because Ozzy died and it's like colored my... but Dickinson is almost like Paul Di'Anno more than Dickinson. I'm kind of surprised I said that. Let's call it the Mount Rushmore of vocalists. With that in mind, who makes up your Mount Rushmore of lyricists? Lastly, who's good enough in both vocals and lyrics combined to earn one of those 4 coveted spots on Mount Rushmore? What could us mere mortals hope to learn and emulate from these gods? What do these 4 have in common with each other? And what's uniquely theirs? What backgrounds/interests make for the best lyricists? How do you feel about lyrics being a collaborative effort? What's the right amount? How much effort goes into... Yeah, I kind of touched on the vocal thing. It's the hardest part of this by far. It's you're either born with a gift. I think even a lot of people that were born with the gift had to work really, really, really hard to figure out how to accurately get the shit to come out. It can be very fickle, you know. But okay, best... I'm going to limit it to metal because if I did like my top 4 lyricists, it would probably be like Hank Williams or songwriters. I don't know. It would be like Tom Petty and John Prine and fucking Townes Van Zandt, guys like that, you know. But limiting it to metal, oddly enough, Geezer Butler and Bob Daisley are like the first guys that come to mind. Both writing lyrics for Ozzy. Geezer's my number 1 for sure. I would put Dax Riggs in there just because of how singular it is. There's nobody like he's got all the hard and gross like metal shit in there, but it's written like it's poetry. You know, it's just so it's psychedelic poetry. Yeah, definitely Dax. And so if we're gonna talk about lyricists that also have the vocal chops, him and Dio are like the guys for me. Lyricists. Roger Waters for sure, but that's not really metal. So yeah, I'm gonna say Geezer, Bob Daisley, Dax Riggs. When I was a kid, I really, really liked James Hetfield's lyrics. I look at them now, I think they're a little bit simplistic, but there's nothing wrong with that at all. So him for sure. I think he's one of the greatest metal vocalists ever, easily. So there's 4 lyricists, right? Bob Daisley, Geezer Butler, Dax, and James Hetfield. Those first three guys, they kind of have the psychedelic, introspective thing going on, and then James is like almost opposite. He's just real world, like horror, but um, yeah, still kind of poetic and rhyming. Very important. So as far as dudes with lyrics that can sing, we did that too, right? James Hetfield, Dax Riggs, Dio wrote his own lyrics for sure. Um, man, who else? I don't know. Maybe like Robert Lowe from Solitude Aeternus. I'm assuming he's writing all those lyrics, and he's one of my favorite singers for sure. So yeah, I'll say those four guys: Hetfield, Dio, Dax Riggs, Rob Lowe from Solitude Aeternus. That's just off the top of my head. I might really be forgetting somebody that writes great lyrics and sings like a bastard. Uh, I guess Phil's lyrics are all right. They're a little weird for me, but I would maybe put him as like the alternate. Last one, guys. Thanks for sticking around. Write me with your great ideas and questions, bigriffenergy@gmail.com. I want to thank everybody for the fucking constant daily support. Like, it's insane. It's insane. It's very expensive and grueling. Like, I can't even put into words how grueling it is to be involved in a situation like what we're involved in. And you guys are like helping us every single day. And it all matters. The kind words, the thoughts, the check-ins, it's all helping us. So thank you. That said, for those of you who are wanting to buy riffs, make sure, because there are people just sending in money to help us out with this situation, which is fucking amazing. But some of you guys are sending money and I'm not getting the info that it's for a riff. And then I'm making y'all wait when you don't need to be waiting. So write me, bigriffenergy@gmail.com, if you are commissioning one of these custom big riff salads, and tell me what you're looking for. I think I only got one more to do and I'll be caught up. Okay. Yeah, and write me questions, bigriffenergy@gmail.com. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'm trying to keep this thing on the rails. I've been wanting to do interviews, but it's just, I'm just doing what I can with this podcast for the time being. David from Germany, last one. While I was watching you talk about Witch Hazel, you mentioned Halas Ashbury. Check out second album by Phantom Spell. It's called Heather and Hearth. I will. Okay, Phantom Spell. He talks about them. Fenriz likes them, so that's good. Okay, as a guitar nerd, I also enjoyed watching you talk about Eddie Van Halen, but there's another big name in the world of big guitars that you have missed so far, and that's Ritchie Blackmore, who's probably my favorite guitarist ever. I feel like there are two guitar players who shaped metal guitar playing more than any other. One, of course, is Tony Iommi, and the other is Blackmore. While Iommi initiated that heavy and darker edge, Richie brought in a lot of virtuosity and all those classical European influences. Phrygian dominant mode, which you've talked about. He was way ahead of his time with all the neoclassical stuff. Yeah, to me, like Tony Iommi carved a path that ended up being followed by Hetfield, the guys from Slayer, Matt Pike, Wino, all of those guys. Those are like Kirk from Crowbar. Those are all like my favorite riffers and guitar players. Whereas Ritchie Blackmore carved a path that was more kind of followed by like Yngwie, who I love. Not sweep picking. It is not sweep picking. He doesn't sweep pick, and he fucking wants you to know that he doesn't sweep pick because he's a real goddamn man. Who else? Yeah, Ritchie Blackmore, Uli John Roth, who is like top 5 lead guitar players for me. And Eddie and Randy, I think they kind of like, that's the path that Ritchie Blackmore carved. Which I just prefer the Tony Iommi path. Dimebag. Dimebag's kind of in the middle, I would say. Okay. It would be really cool to hear you talk a little bit about that legend. Do you have favorite Blackmore riffs, solo songs, or albums? By the way, it's great you were doing well enough to allow some normalcy. I'm looking forward to every new episode of this. I'm also very excited about the new Spirit Adrift album, which will hopefully be released next year. Yes, it will be under any circumstances. You mentioned that it would be the best one yet. Now, that's a promise to me because Ghost at the Gallows would probably make it to my top 10 metal albums of the decade so far. Thanks, man. Cheers from Germany, David. Yeah, I don't know. It's all subjective, but the new Spirit Adrift songs are my favorite. They're the heaviest, they're the most fun to play. Definitely the heaviest. And I played a half a riff earlier. I don't know if anybody caught that. You can rewind. Yeah, I got into Ritchie Blackmore because of In Rock. That'll be my number one pick for Deep Purple. I remember when I was really getting into Annihilation Time in like 2005 and 6. On their MySpace, they had a description of like what they sounded like or their influences or something like that. And it was a bunch of stuff. And it said something about like playing a cummed on copy of Deep Purple, playing a cummed on, like your dad's cummed on copy of fucking Deep Purple in Rock at the wrong speed at 45 instead of 33. I'm like, huh, maybe I should check that album out. I knew Smoke at the Water and all that bullshit and didn't like that song, didn't care anything about it. But I got In Rock, and that's one of my favorite albums, man, for sure. I actually did a thing during COVID. I don't know where it went, but we did one of those YouTube like collaborative covers of Into the Fire. And it was the dude from King on drums, KYNG, I think. Can't remember who was playing bass. Maybe somebody from Black Dahlia Murder or something like that. Guitar was Zach from Imperial Triumphant, and I did just vocals, and I felt fucking great about it, man. Because the Ian Gillan vocals on In Rock is like some of my favorite stuff ever. And I remember I put like a psychedelic like banner behind me and felt like I nailed it, dude. But I can't find it on YouTube. I think it got taken down, maybe copyright or something. But yeah, I love In Rock a lot. You mentioned Burn. I really, really like Burn too. I would say those are my two favorite Deep Purple records. And then I have to mention Rainbow Rising, obviously. One of the best metal records, proto metal records ever made. I've heard that Ritchie Blackmore is how do they say in England, cunt. So I don't know, maybe that kind of like kept me off of him. It kept me from being too big of a fan. I didn't really dig at the California Jam 74 or whatever. That's a big ass concert that Black Sabbath played, Black Oak, Arkansas, all kinds of bands, but Deep Purple played, and this motherfucker is breaking a fucking brand new Fender Strat to pieces like every 30 seconds. I don't know how many Fender Strats he went through, but shit kind of pissed me off. I don't really like that. Yeah. So I don't think I like him. I don't know him, but I could pretty much, he's wearing a fucking pilgrim hat. So I could pretty much not fully guarantee, but almost guarantee that I don't like him. But great guitar player, great riffer, monumentally significant and important and influential in the world of guitar and specifically metal guitar. But yeah, those will be my go-to Ritchie Blackmore albums for sure. In Rock, Burn, both Deep Purple albums, and Rainbow Rising. Whichever that one is. Is that Bloodsucker? Or whatever one that is. That's my favorite Ritchie Blackmore riff. I think it's on In Rock for sure. All right, that's it. If you want a little mini song, your own custom, one of a kind, Nate Garrett Big Riff Energy miniature song for your wake up alarm or just to jam or for your podcast or whatever, there's a link in the description. Send me money. Send me an email at bigriffenergy@gmail.com. Tell me what you want. Thank you so much, guys. You've been very, very cool through this whole process. And it's a comforting thing knowing that we got this community. It's been fucking sweet. It's been sweet to see like metal, the to the outside world, it's like the most unlikely source of like love and compassion and support, but it's real, man. Um, yeah, thanks, Jimmy, for the bolt thrower shirt, dude. We're going to war together, so thank you, man. All right, see y'all next episode. Hopefully next week, but we'll see. Shit's getting real. All right, peace.